Other thing that is, I think, helpful in reverse is as a place to looking at things that other smart people are buying. That is not a crazy search method. Is a sorting device for opportunities to consider.
Charlie knew me when I used to I'd grab the Graham Newman reports as fast as they would come out.
Yeah, sure.
And, if Graham Newman was doing something, it was certainly worth my time to look at.
Now, Warren has made a lot of people rich he doesn't even know. He's just copied him.
I would describe it as we try to stay away from the things to start with that we don't understand. And when I say don't understand, it isn't that I don't understand, what a certain business does. But when I say understand, it means that I think I have a reasonable fix on about what the earning power and competitive position will look like in 5 or 10 years. So I've got some notion of how the industry will develop and where the company will stand within the industry. Well, that eliminates a whole bunch of things. And then beyond that, if the price is crazy, even though I understand it, that eliminates another bunch. So you get down to a very small universe, and you get down to a particularly small universe when we're working with lots of money as we are now. But I would say this. I can't recall any time in the last 30 years, at least, that we've bought a new issue, have we, Shirley?
I can't think of one.
No. I mean, the idea that somebody is bringing something to market today, a seller who has a choice of when to come to market, and that security, where there's going to be a lot of hoopla connected with it, is going to be the single cheapest thing to buy out of thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses in the world, is nonsense. So
and when it carries a 7% commission, or higher, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So you know it can't be the most attractive thing. Now, but people get excited about what's coming and all that sort of thing. But I will guarantee you that if you have thousands of opportunities among stocks all over the world, and most of them are not being promoted or being sold with special commissions in them or something else, and then some other security is coming to market that day, when the seller picks the time to bring it, as opposed to just this auction market operating otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense to spend 5 seconds thinking about new issues. So we don't think about them. And we also, there's industries we know they may have a wonderful future, but we don't have the faintest idea who the winners will be. So we don't think about those either. So there's a whole lot of things we don't think about. And Charlie and I have a number of filters that things have to get through very quickly before we're willing to think about them. And sometimes we're thought of as rude. Probably Charlie's thought of that way a little more often than I am. Sometimes we're thought of as rude because people will call us and they start explaining some idea to us, and it just doesn't make it for the first filter or two. And so we think we're saving their time if we just politely say, that we just have no interest, and we don't want to have you finish the sentence. But we do that, don't we? Yeah. We don't have to do very many things that work. I mean, that's the beauty of this business. You don't have to be able, to spell 500 words or something to get to the end of the spelling bee and beat everybody else. You just have to do one or two things every now and then that where you don't make a big mistake, and where every now and then one works out real well. And the solution, you'll get a good result. You can't have a big disaster. I mean, you just, that's what we try to avoid. We do not ever want to lose a significant percentage of Berkshire's net worth, and so far we haven't.
I think there are a couple of little rules of thumb. If it's got a really large commission in it,
forget it.
Don't read it. Because the chances somebody who's paying a very high commission to give you a big advantage is very low.
How long do you think it will take China to appear a giant company like Coca-Cola? And in which industry you think it will be? Thank you.
How long will it take China to do what?
I didn't quite get that one.
Connection to Coca-Cola, yeah.
How long will it take China to do what?
Just how long do you think it will take China to appear a great company like Coca-Cola? And in which industry you
Well,
think?
China already
They have
has
great-
some great companies. It's hard to think of a great branded goods company, but China has some very great companies already.
Yeah,
What's in Huluai, I can't pronounce them, but they've got some very great companies.
yeah, so far, it has not been Chinese fast food companies that have been exported to the United States, as opposed to, we've got over 500 Dairy Queens now in China. We tend to export certain products well, some consumer products, entertainment products, that sort of thing. But China's got some huge companies, and they may eclipse in market value, some of the ones such as Coca-Cola that we're talking about.
Is Google inevitable? Is it reminiscent of the advertising agencies you owned in the 1970s, i.e. a toll bridge on all digital spending that's highly likely to keep growing over time? What are the one or two things about Google, for example, that you think are real risks? And what about Apple?
Well, those are extraordinary companies, obviously. And they're both huge companies. They make lots of money. They earn fantastic returns on capital. They look very tough to dislodge where they have their strengths. I would not be at all surprised to see them be worth a lot more money 10 years from now, but I wouldn't want to buy either one of them. I do not get to the level of conviction that would cause me to buy them, but I sure as hell wouldn't short them either. Charlie?
Well, I think we can fairly say that other people will always understand those two companies better than we do. We have the reverse of an edge, and we're not looking for that.
Now he's going to say, isn't the same thing true in IBM?
Well, I don't think it is. I think IBM is easier to understand.
Yeah. The chances of being way wrong in IBM are probably less, at least for us, than being way wrong with Google or Apple. But that doesn't mean that the latter two companies aren't going to do, say, far better than IBM. But we wouldn't have predicted what would happen with Apple 10 years ago. And it's very hard for me to predict, what will happen with the next 10 years. There's certainly, they've come up with these brilliant products. There's other people trying to come up with brilliant products, and I just don't know how to evaluate the people that are out there working either in big companies or in garages that are trying to think of something that will change the world the way they have changed it in recent years.
And what do we know about computer science?
There's no reply. There's no question that railroads, utilities, insurance companies are all very much affected by the political process. Fortunately, I think, in the railroad industry, we've got economics on our side, and economics usually win out. I mean, we can move a ton of product 500 miles on 1 gallon of diesel, and that may be 3 times or so as efficient as trucking, and that may be why the railroads currently move, say, 42% of all intercity traffic. I don't think our percentage is going to go down, the railroad industry as a whole, no matter what the politics may be. It's just too compelling to move heavy traffic long distances over steel rail. And in terms of congestion, in terms of emissions, all kinds of reasons. So we've got a wonderful product, and there will always be struggles in the political arena between competitors in railroads and customers in railroads. It's the nature of the game, and there'll be some of that in utilities too. But overall, I like our position in that. They do have to be involved in politics. I mean, the railroads, all 4 of the big railroads, are going to be involved in the political process because people who would like to change some of the rules, either as customers or competitors, are going to be in politics too, and things will get decided in state capitals and more important in Washington of importance. So they'll have lobbyists and they'll play a political game, and their opponents will. I like our position. It would be very dumb for the country to do anything that discouraged the railroad industry from spending the kind of capital that will need to be spent to take care of the transportation needs of this country in the future. If you think about the money that will have to be spent on highways and the costs involved in there, and the congestion problems, the emissions problems, and everything, the country has a strong interest in the railroad industry having every incentive to invest, and the railroad industry pays its own way. We'll spend $3.9 billion this year, and a lot of it will go to improve our present system an awful lot, and some will go toward expansion of a type, and the country will be better off on that, and the federal government will not write a check for it. Charlie?
Yeah, it's in the nature of things that there are waves of good breaks and bad breaks. Burlington Northern was enormously helped when you could double the container carriage by making the tunnels a little higher and the bridges a little stronger. And they were enormously helped when they found all this oil in North Dakota and there weren't any pipelines. And they will get some bad breaks too occasionally where somebody will take away a little freight. But averaged out, it's a terrific business with terrific management. I don't think our main problems are political at all.
No. The railroad industry,
For one thing, we're headed by a prominent Democrat.
the railroad industry was, that may not be a help, Charlie. Right after World War II, now there was a lot of passenger traffic then, but the railroad industry, I think, had as many as 1,700,000 employees in the United States. And here we are today, there's less than 200,000. I mean, railroads have become so much more efficient. It's just by a huge factor. And it's a fundamentally very good way to move heavy stuff a long distance. I mean, it's hard to conceive of anything. It's nice maybe to have barge traffic, but you only got a few rivers that are going to lend themselves to real volume along that line. And so you have air, pipeline, vehicles, planes, trains. Trains are pretty darn good. Okay, station 4.